What inspired me to embark on the path of yoga and spirituality was essentially a thirst for freedom and truth. I was living in a communist country, and communism in general suffocates people. And with this materialism and with this focus on just material aims. So I was a student and I was looking for much more than that. And so these were the main circumstances. But essentially it's like this flow of the flow of a river that goes to the ocean. Is this calling of consciousness coming back to its source. And in this journey, there were indeed some special moments. So it was an aspiration and a passion for yoga. It came slowly, but in a very intense way. It was this thirst, this joy of practicing. But then also there was a lot of grace. I remember, for example, practicing yoga nidra, this yoga of conscious sleep. And then so much freedom and so much beauty. It was like a blossoming from inside. And that was a revelation because it was in winter time, and that winter was like a symbol for the whole communism, the whole period that we are. And I could realize that there can be still so much flowering and blossoming in the soul in spite of all this. So this was the beginning. And then there were also some very inspiring dreams. I remember especially immediately after I started practicing yoga, a very vivid dream in which I met a kind of sage who told me something that I didn't understand, that I didn't have any idea what can be. I said, what is tamavasi? And it was later that my teacher told me this is tatvamasi, which is a great statement of the Upanishads. You are that. So of course that was a very beautiful inspiration for me, and a sense that somehow it's a deeper calling that goes maybe beyond time. And then another inspiration was another dream in which I just saw people full of joy, and they were just repeating, singing and balancing each other in a blissful state, repeating, there is truly bliss. There is bliss in truth. And that remained to me, and it's still there. Well, the inspiration came in retreats, in solitary retreats, and then also during silent retreats together with other people. There was mostly a need to bring a sense of coherence between different attitudes and practice of meditation. Because, of course, yoga existed since so many centuries and all these techniques are not new. But I felt the need of a coherence in all these. For example, you practice Hatha Yoga, and then it's mostly a focus maybe on the body or on the energy and chakras. But this is somehow different from self-inquiry, which happens in meditation when you are looking from that depth and that revelation of the essence. And then also different approaches that seem to be quite separate. What would be bhakti, what would be devotion, what would be Kashmir Shaivism. And Hridaya aims to create this coherence, this harmony, so that while practicing Hatha Yoga, you can, and you should, still remember who you are. And while practicing Bhakti and Karma Yoga, this self-remembrance is there. It was an aspiration for having a Hatha Yoga in which non-duality is an essential aspect, so a non-dual Hatha Yoga. There is somehow a tendency, especially in Advaita and its teachings of non-duality, to see somehow with superiority Hatha Yoga because Hatha Yoga seems to be mostly related to just the body. But Hatha Yoga can become a highly meditative, contemplative practice which can be so enriching, and then the echoes of that revelation of the spirit can come in the body as well. Also, there was a sense that a community can be created like a sacred sanctuary. This Hridaya can be a community in which people can show that such transformations are possible, and we can connect and live in such revelations in this truth. So echoes of that. And yes, basically, this was the reason for creating this Hridaya Yoga. Yoga means union. So essentially it's a union between the soul and the universe, the soul and this essence, pure awareness, God, supreme consciousness. So yoga is also the path that allows this union of the flame, the little flame of the soul with the fire of eternal fire of divine consciousness. There are, in yoga, of course, many forms and expressions, but there are some essential features that can be found in any such yogic tradition. A looking for inside, a recognition of that spiritual reality, the need for rediscovering of this essence, the need for discipline and methods, of a vision that embraces this and supports the journey. Also, ethical, moral values are fundamental, coming from inside, not necessarily imposed, but coming from inside. And then all this journey in a hope for perfection, this possibility of union. This is what yoga affirms, and this can be revealed experientially. Hridaya means spiritual heart, is the very core of our being, is the temple, the sacred temple of our being in which the real meanings of life can be revealed. It's what makes us really human. We speak in Hridaya about this Cœur de Lion, that lion's heart, which emanates naturally generosity, courage, loyalty to truth, compassion, beauty, love. So Hridaya is the heart, is the source of all these divine qualities, and is the sanctuary of oneness, is a place where you can find who you are. So for a beginner to the spiritual journey, I would recommend to start with self-awareness and love. So to learn to become more and more aware of herself, or in general of life, to be the mind calmer, and to open the heart, to keep a constant curiosity, to honor these aspirations of the soul, so to learn to honor more the intimate life, inner life, to be open and to listen to these inner dimensions of our being, because the spiritual journey is very much about spirit. It's about not something that can be grasped physically. So it's not about just looking for the obvious. It's rather about a humble persistence in discovering something essential, which is in you. So openness, curiosity, compassion, being gentle with yourself, This is what I recommend. Yes. Speaking about breathwork and pranayama, I would like to still make a clarification. Pranayama is more than breathwork. Pranayama is etymologically the control and the awareness of prana, which means much more than just breath. It's about the rhythm of the cosmos. So pranayama essentially and experientially becomes a way of honoring the cosmos. It's about learning about these rhythms of the cosmos. Yoga tradition describes the inspiration and exhalation as the dance of Shiva and Shakti. So such meaning in the practical aspect of pranayama changes a lot of things. So pranayama is about this acknowledgement of the ebb and flow of conscious of oneness, is this rhythm of the universe. And pranayama is like a bridge between personal and universal. So through pranayama, you learn to open to universal energies. You also learn to discover this universal dimension of consciousness. So not to be just personal. And this can happen. Actually, even traditional texts of yoga, even Ramana Maharshi, spoke about the self-realization that can come through self-inquiry. And apart from this, he added pranayama. So much he emphasized this. Maybe also because Yoga Vasishta Sara, another very important text, mentions in this way. So yes, pranayama, he is like a bridge between individual and universal, between our soul and the spirit, the essence. Karma is the law of action and reaction. Karma is the echo of past actions, a teacher guiding us towards harmony. In yoga, we learn to dance these echoes, transforming them into melodies of revelation, of liberation. Karma is teaching us how to embrace life with awareness and love, transforming the fabric of our destiny into a masterpiece of conscious living. Patanjali in Yoga Sutra speaks about the possibility of transforming our future destiny. He said the future suffering, agami karma, can and should be transformed. And its simple solution is to witness, to learn to witness. Because indeed, karma is such a teacher which speaks about previous actions and their effects now. At the same time, we can learn to drop old identifications and patterns by witnessing. So witnessing, we learn to free from karma, and then the karma is not and should not be seen just a wall which just limits human beings, but it's also an opportunity to teach us how to go beyond any limitation. And this, of course, not by being in this still same trap of action and reaction, but witnessing. In yoga, we learn about this purity of intention, and in this karma yoga is exactly about acting with awareness and purity of intention. So this purity of intention is a way in which the action is not just coming from our ego or from our old determinations. Then it's not really an action, it's just a reaction to our sensitivities or weakness or fears and so on. So in Karma Yoga, we learned about this acting in freedom, the real action coming with this purity of intention, an intention motivated by just love and joy of existence, a deep connection with who we are learning to answer to the present moment, to life and situations as they are, not with preconceived ideas. So this would be the way in which we can get free from these limitations. Since yoga can help so much to quiet the mind and open the heart, the meaning of our existence and purpose becomes more and more clear. It's a matter of an alignment with that depth of our being. Actually, it's not so much about finding the purpose of life. It's more about rediscovering or revealing something very profound that is there, so allowing that to appear. Also, it can be that reconsideration of what would mean purpose. So all these values of life can be changed. We are used to see life as having a purpose. What is the purpose of my life? But we can equally see life as a poem. Why not seeing as a poem? And then what is the purpose of a poem? It's just this beauty of existence. And then in that we can feel so inspired. And of course we can have many little purposes, but seeing that happening in this unfolding beauty of existence, which is beyond just a rational or strict mechanical purpose, allowing us to be more and more free. So also beyond personal clarity, yoga nurtures a sense of universal connection, teaching us that our individual purpose should be intertwined with the collective evolution of consciousness. Is not just about me, it's about how we can honor and support each other. And that in itself is so uplifting. The dark night of the soul is a period of difficulties or struggles of the soul, in which we can say the soul enters this valley of regret, of incapacity to rely on anything that used to be so stable. But this is a good period if it's approached wisely, because it's teaching us to be guided by this star of self-awareness, not to rely on what is ephemeral. So it's a good teaching that there are things you can really rely, and that ultimately what is the anchor, the stability, is your heart. There you learn to find the supreme stability. Actually, this concept of the dark night of the soul comes from St. John of the Cross. He passed through such a period. He speaks with no other light or guide than the one which shines in my soul. So it's not just about the darkness of desperation, but it's about that guiding star of our heart. Then facing our shadows, we will emerge with greater strength, understanding and having a renewed connection with our soul in a more authentic way. The dark night of the soul is like the neti-neti. In yoga we speak about this, not that, the neti-neti of all that is irrelevant. So it's a way in which life is teaching us how to detach from this relativity and rely more on what is really to be reliable and to trust in. Essentially, classical Tantra is about embracing all life. The life is seen as paths to spiritual awakening. It teaches us to transmute any experience, be pleasant or unpleasant, into an opportunity to growth and realization. Tantra is the sacred union of what used to be seen as opposites, recognizing their union. It's a divine alchemy where the mundane becomes sacred and the soul starts dancing in the ecstatic dance of transformation. Tantra is a blend of light and shadow, an embrace of all that is. Tantra acknowledges the sacredness of the mundane, the sacredness of everything, and is offering a unique perspective that sees divinity in all aspects of life. Tantra also is teaching us to see the cosmic dimensions of our being. The Tantra is about this aliveness of the cosmos. For example, our energies, the energies of the senses, are seen in Tantra as goddesses. So Tantra is about honoring all these energies of the cosmos as sacred. Shakti doesn't mean just power, it means sacred power. And Tantra speaks about the beauty of opening this sacredness of life. Tantra teaches about this way of integrating life and manifestation in the spiritual path. While some approaches are, we can say, more ascetic, trying to deny the world or seeing the world as just an illusion, Tantra is a more comprehensive way of understanding the spiritual journey, understanding life and the spiritual journey in general, in which everything becomes holistic. And this is the very spirit of non-duality. Everything is part of that. But in Tantra, this is possible because we learn to see that everything is sacred. So this sacredness of everything, understanding this one taste we refer in yoga to that samarasa, to that sense that is the same inspiration in the touch of the wind, in the movement of the waves. There is a sense of the sacredness, there is a sense of eternity. And Tantra is speaking about that sacredness hidden in the smallest, tiniest movements of nature. And because of this, also, any spiritual path can become much more rich, much more meaningful, because it's not just an ascetic approach or a denial of the inner world or the external world, but on the contrary, a raising of everything to that fire of the spirit. Within the framework of Tantra, bhakti is so natural because love is the essence of Tantra. Cultivate devotion by seeing the divine in everything. When we start developing a devotional heart, sensitive to love, then we are on the path of Tantra, and bhakti, devotion, flows naturally. Tantra teaches us how to transform our daily life into a continuous act of worship and spiritual communion. And this is the essence of bhakti as well. Tantra speaks about this surrender of the drop to the ocean, so it's surrender of the individual to the oneness. And this can happen only if there is devotion. Tantra is a love affair with the universe, and the very expression of this is bhakti, in which every act becomes a prayer and every moment is an offering to the divine. In this journey, love is both the path and the destination. Non-duality is about this revelation that there is no separation between ourselves and others, is an invitation to acknowledge that background of awareness in which this world happens. Indeed, it challenges our egotic tendencies of seeing only in terms of limitation, of labeling. Maya basically comes from the root ma, which means to measure. And this discursive rational mind tends to separate, to make and put labels, everything. But really, when you are in front of your lover, or when you contemplate a sunset, and then in your soul there is at the same time wonderment and beauty and a sense of infinity and a sense of eternity and love and joy, you cannot really separate all of this, and they are all together. And that holistic sense, which is rooted in that unique consciousness, that points to the consciousness of oneness, and that teaches us that we should see life not in separation, but in this unity. Also, non-duality doesn't mean to deny the particularity. We use this metaphor of the wave and the ocean. Yes, non-duality means to see the ocean, but this doesn't mean that we have to deny the wave. We are the wave, and it's a beauty in each wave. But at the same time, non-duality teaches us that deeper perspective of the unity in which everything happens. Non-duality is the understanding of the fact that all is rooted in one, is like a mirror reflecting itself with all this beauty of different nuances and reflections. It's a conscious mirror reflecting itself. Non-duality is the silent whisper of the winds, the boundless expanse of the sky, the state of being where the illusion of separation dissolves, revealing the eternal oneness of all existence. Non-duality also invites us to question the very nature of self and others, and then also the fear of death and that sense of separation. Non-duality is so inspiring when we open to love and we start feeling that oneness with our lover, and then oneness, a similar oneness with everything. Actually, non-duality is not a topic for scholars, but is a domain, a reality for mystics. The difference would be like the one between reading about honey and tasting the honey and enjoying it. So non-duality is not just about a statement or a mental assumption. It's an inner revelation, and more than this, it's the freedom that comes with that. So it's not just an experience, but it's also a deep revelation that echoes in our entire life. It's a deep faith which comes from a direct experience of non-duality. The intellectual realization is just knowledge. The direct experience is wisdom. Intellectual understanding is like tracing the reflection of the moon in the water, while direct realization would be like merging with the moon's luminous essence. In different contexts, the relationship between non-duality, awareness, consciousness, and void depends according to our meaning to these terms. In Hridaya, consciousness and awareness are similar. We can, of course, refer to universal awareness or universal consciousness that refers to this background, while personal awareness refers to an awareness of the breath or of sensations and so on. Also, emptiness can refer to the same pure background of awareness as freed from any limitation or personal concepts, but usually emptiness can refer to a state of mental void, and then mental void is just like a first step. Mental void is not yet the pure consciousness. Mental void is just an absence of thoughts. For example, now we can just remain without thoughts. And this still doesn't mean that the strategies of the mind were completely stopped. The mind may still continue with questions like, what's next? What is this? So the ego is still there. But when this pure awareness happens, then it's like a dropping of everything, not just thoughts and mind, conscious mind, but also any personal egotic strategy. It's a deep surrender. And in that, you are in touch with eternity, with this consciousness of oneness. And this pure awareness reveals non-duality. Because when it expands, when it's not just the personal experience, it is not, it will change from a personal experience. The frame of personality starts dissolving, and then in the absence of any world, what is there? What is there? And you realize that there is nothing, there is no limitation, there is a bottomless, infinite freedom. And thus we are introduced to non-duality. Nature is a manifestation of the divine, teaching us about the rhythms of life, about death and rebirth. So it mirrors our own spiritual journey, is reminding us about the transient of manifestations, while still there is this eternal essence of existence. Nature is the outer temple of the inner spirit, a teacher who speaks in the language of beauty and silence, inviting us to remember our inherent unity with all. So nature is our silent guru, teaching through the rhythms of seasons, with the whispers of leaves, with the flow of rivers, guiding us back to the truth of this interconnectedness of everything. And actually, in spirituality, all metaphors are based on images from nature. And it's such a beautiful way of understanding how life exists in these natural rhythms, and how a tree, for example, can host birds and ants, and everything is in harmony and in unity. And this should be our life. There is a sense of alienation always when we forget about nature, but always after a busy week, for example, in a crowded city, when we come back to nature, is like so much regeneration. And this happens also when we learn to come to the heart. So coming to the heart is like coming to this centeredness of our being. We speak about our inner nature, and the heart is our inner nature, this realm of naturalness. Meditation teaches us many things. Essentially teaches us about the witness that there is something in us which is beyond just emotions and thoughts. And this is something essential, because it teaches us how to smile to the compulsive thoughts or emotions of our being. Meditation can become such an inner guide to freedom. Meditation is also a way of revealing this consciousness of oneness. Usually we take this life as the only reality, and of course we refer now to this wakefulness state, but we all acknowledge other states of consciousness. In yoga we speak about, apart from this wakefulness state, about dream state and deep sleep, and then about another one, the fourth, turiya, which can be revealed in meditation. How? Simply by starting to expand consciousness. It's an expansion of the mind. It's like mind is stretches. Imagine that now, while you are being in this wakefulness state, the dream emerge. So this can happen in meditation. That sense of flow that happens in a dream can be here, now, which means somehow the objects start losing their sense of separate entities, and you start feeling that they happen in the same flow of consciousness. They are happening in you, and you become like the dreamer of all these. And then more than this, or along with that, is like an intuition of what is happening in deep sleep, that blissful stream of a unity. And this, still while being conscious, still while honoring this life. So meditation is a way of expanding our understanding and realizing that reality is much more than we used to consider to be. Meditation is like the boat that sails beyond the dualistic shores into the ocean of oneness, where the mind is still and the heart knows no separation. Meditation cultivates a state of pure awareness, an experiential understanding that we are part of a larger, interconnected whole. Meditation teaches us that we are not just the threads, but we are the loom as well. We are the creator of all this fabric of existence. And then meditation teaches us that mind is just a tool that operates in the field of consciousness. And meditation becomes like a commitment to truth, to this eternal field of consciousness. Meditation, of course, can be seen as a quick fix of our problems when we are stressed and worried. Meditation helps. Of course, there are many such benefits of meditation, but meditation can be much more than this. Is this commitment to beauty and love and truth. In case we are afraid of silence in meditation, this depends how afraid you may be. If you are really, really scared, maybe it's good to wait a little bit. But otherwise, I would say that silence is not to be feared, but embraced. Because it is in the silence and stillness that we finally hear the voice of our inner wisdom. The silent retreat can be a profound journey to the heart, revealing truths whispered in the quiet. As Thomas Keating said, silence is the language God speaks, and everything else is a bad translation. So embrace the fear, for in the heart of silence lies a truth too profound for words. A peace that will carry you home to yourself. So initially maybe scary, it may be scary for the ego, it may be scary for our old lifestyle, for habits, but silence is so liberating. And of course, in a silent retreat, we also learn the tools to enjoy and to appreciate silence. So meditation is not a fight and is not an imposition in which you just have to be quiet or just have to be focused. It's a journey into yourself, and this realm of stillness starts becoming fascinating. And when that happens, it's so rewarding and it's so much freedom. There's so much freedom. Staying open-hearted in a world that seems sometimes so cruel is indeed an act of courage and faith. It's recognizing that beneath the surface of cruelty lies pain and ignorance, but then even deeper than this is that pure awareness and godliness is the heart. And this can be recognized. This is experiential. So this trust refers to a reconnection with that essence, and is a way of seeing or learning to see that in the heart of any human being, there is still that beauty, untamed beauty. And then, yes, many veils of rage and anger and revenge are happening, but staying open-hearted is our duty, because this is the only way in which we can transform the world. It's a duty that we have to help others to do so. It's seeing that sunflower in the heart of everybody. So staying open-hearted in such challenging times means to respond with compassion, understanding, and trust in this tremendous power, transformative power of love. Staying open-hearted is like staying like a lotus in the mud, knowing that even in darkness there is potential for growth and beauty. In a world of shadows, let your heart be a beacon of light for yourself and for others, learning to embrace each moment with compassion and courage. It's also a time for seeing that in this crucible of cruelty, the most profound love is forged. It's like a commitment to love. It's pushing us to trust more and more in love and its transformative power.